Welcome back to another episode of the Hardcore Casual with your boy Bass the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an associate, an enemy, anyone in between. I appreciate it. Now, I did say previous video I talk about some new stuff that's going to be happening on the channel, so some things are going to change. There will be new productions and stuff moving forward really soon. Like, I'll get into all of that a little further down the line. But good news for everyone that's been rocking with me. Thank you very much. From day one up until now, the channel has now actually got monetization behind it. I've hit all the thresholds I needed to hit for all of that. So there are now custom memberships in the on the tabs there. You've got community and members only stuff that will be happening. There's 3 different tiers. Have a look on there. If any of them are of interest to you, please sign up. And we'll sort of make things bigger and better. It's obviously all gonna be put back towards the channel. This isn't a day job for me, so I do it purely as sort of an entertainment little side hustle, and yes, it's just my hobby, which I guess in turn helps out everyone else who watches. So again, thank you very much for everyone there. Whoever does put memberships, you'll see the different criteria. There's a couple of different levels there. Have a look, see if any of them are of interest to you, and yeah, we'll get some more frequent content coming out. Now, there's been a couple very big bits of news that have come out today. So what would I be if I didn't give my take on these particular subjects? So without further ado, let's get into it. So after a couple of weeks of Sonny Edwards going crazy, basically saying that none of the other fighters want to fight him, none of the champions, there's no unifications happening, everyone's scared to sign the contract, it looks like Bam Rodriguez has had enough of the doubt that he is all about that smoke. So it's now been made official that Sonny Edwards will face Bam Rodriguez either in November or December this year. The date and the venue haven't been confirmed to the public yet, but Eddie Hearn has stipulated that the venue is already done. He just isn't telling anyone where it's going to be, and they're just working out the date to work out when will be best for both parties, but it will ultimately be sort of November time, December time. Now that equal, when did Bam have his last fight? His last fight was his last fight was, I think it was February. So obviously he had a broken jaw, which is, I guess, now been healed up. He would have probably have liked to have got out in the summer as well. He seems to do better when he's a bit more active, but maybe the rest will help him out in this aspect. Had Sonny Edwards recently, just had a fight 2 weeks ago, so that's a good level of activity for him. Not too much time out of the ring. He'll be able to sort of fine tune and prepare himself for that fight. Look, it's a really good fight, and the question is, who is going to take the initiative? I mean, look, Sonny Edwards can do his back foot fighting all day long if he really wants to. Bam is also a lot better on the back foot and having his opponents sort of come onto him for him to be able to, use his angles of movement to counter. We've seen that when Bam goes on the front foot, he's not as good as his back foot, and we've yet to see Sonny go on the front foot consistently during a fight. So this is one of those ones where Bam may have to press the action, and by pressing the action will ultimately fall into Sonny's game plan and basically fall into his trap and into his web. Or it could be a case of both guys wanting to be that counter puncher, be that mover, be that person that is ultimately gonna, set the other one into something, into a trap that they didn't really see, which could make actually for a very horrible watch. But I don't see that being the case, because I feel that because this is like the biggest fight of both of their I guess technically say both of their careers right now. I mean, look, it's a unification. It's definitely Sonny's biggest fight. Maybe it's not Bam's. Maybe Bam's biggest fight was the Rungvisai fight or the Quadras fight thus far. But because it's a unification, I guess this is definitely the most significant, because a lot of people have had, they've been questioning Bam's, they've been questioning, oh, is he really as good as we thought based on his last two performances? Now, the Israel Gonzalez fight, I actually thought was a good performance. It's just that, he ultimately didn't look as stellar as he did in the last two. His last performance was okay. There wasn't anything wrong with it. But again, being on the front foot, he didn't get to show him as we've seen him previously. So that's how he's got to look. Now, obviously, Sonny, can he be more entertaining for the people that don't like the pure boxing, that don't like the angles, the slickness, the movement, and want people to maybe sit and not so much trade, but be a bit more adventurous in what they're doing in the ring? Can he open himself up to that new market? Not sure. It'll be very interesting to see sort of how that plays out. Ultimately, we know who's got the punch power advantage in this fight. Speed, I'm not sure. I feel like they both could actually be very similar in speed. I guess we've got to look at ring IQ. I think that's where this fight ultimately ends up being won. And at this moment in time, I would definitely say that Sonny appears to have the better ring IQ. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he is a shoo-in for this one. But either way, look, it's a great fight. I'm interested in watching. I can't wait for it to take place. And depending on where it is, I'll see if I can maybe get to it. But anyway, that's enough of that one, because we've got some more information which is a bit more relevant to the mainstream. And yeah, let's talk about it. So we all knew that Canelo Alvarez was in talks to be facing Jermall Charlo next, after Jermall's been out of the ring for over 2 years at this point, going up to 168 in his fight back. I mean, it makes sense totally, but this is definitely the quote-unquote gimme fight for Canelo. He doesn't have very many of them, but based on the activity of Charlo, I sense you could call this a gimme fight, to be totally honest. However, the interesting part of this story is now that fight's a done deal, or at least it appears to be a done deal, because it hasn't been officially announced that Charlo is who he'll be facing next, but that seems to be what we all believe. However, the interesting part of it is that he's actually now signed a 3-fight deal with the PBC. Now, based on Canelo's usual schedule, that means he's going to be fighting in September. I think September the 16th. Then he's going to be fighting the first weekend of May, and then he'll be fighting the second weekend of September 2024. Now, he could throw us a curveball and maybe have a December fight and then the May fight, and then be a free agent again after May. But chances are, knowing him and how he's his body seems to be reacting to elevated activity these days, it probably may be more of a sensible assumption to say it's going to be September, May, September. So now there's two very important questions that we have to look at. Number one, who is the second and who is the third fight of that, of that schedule? Or is it a case of you do Jermall Charlo now, then David Benavidez in May, and if Benavidez were to win, you have a Benavidez rematch in September? Or do you do like a Jermall Charlo now, and then like a Demetrius Andrade or someone else, in and around that for the May time, and then you have Benavidez as like the third fight of the 3-fight deal for September, that's Mexican Independence Day? Or does he go on Cinco de Mayo? I mean, which one would make more sense to the Mexican audience? Would it be Cinco de Mayo or would it be Mexican Independence Day? I would lean towards the latter in my own thought process. So that means that you'd obviously got to now get Canelo 2 opponents prior. And yeah, so you've got Jermall Charlo. I guess it would make sense that, Demetrius Andrade has called for that fight for God knows how long for Canelo. Maybe then he gets his opportunity. But also, because you've now got David Benavidez pretty much saying that, look, he's not going to be fighting David Morrell in October. The fact that Canelo Alvarez has now actually signed a deal with the PBC, it guarantees chances are now that Morrell fight is not going to happen, because the risk reward to that, when you've got the promised land of Canelo Alvarez in the distance, you're not going to take the risk there. So the more sensible choice and idea would probably now be for David Benavidez to face someone like Demetrius Andrade. Because while Andrade is, he's a slick boxer, quote unquote tricky, but he's still a naturally smaller guy. He hasn't got the best engine, especially after sort of the first 5-6 rounds. He seems to carry the extra 8 pounds not as well as maybe we had thought based on the Damon Nicholson fight. So Benavidez might decide, you know what, let me fight Demetrius Andrade. I can take that as a 2-weight world champion. That's a credible scalp. Gives me even more momentum going into a potential Canelo Alvarez fight. Now, previously I always said that I didn't think David Benavidez was really looking for that Canelo fight. I thought like he was just trying to ride Canelo's wave, but with Canelo inking an actual deal, him being a PBC member, I don't think there's absolutely any chance that Al Heyman would not allow him to have that fight. So then I look at it and I say, okay, well, what other options could there potentially be? Well, so we're talking, going back to Canelo now. Initially, if we remember, they offered him a 2-fight deal, which was for him to face Charlo and to face Errol Spence. So now maybe is that the route we're going? Are we gonna go Jermall Charlo, Errol Spence at like 165 or something, and then David Benavidez? I think that might be the route. And then Benavidez gets Demetrius Andrade, and then he gets like a quote unquote tick over fight, in the early part of next year, sort of March, April time, to then set him up for the big September showdown with Canelo Alvarez in September. I mean, look, the plan all looks like it's formulating well in that sense. So the only bad thing about it on my part is that I don't know which broadcaster these fights are going to end up with. Are they going to go on Sky? Are they going to go on BT Sport or TNT Sport, I think it will be called by then? Will DAZN get the UK rights? Will we have to pay for it on Fight TV? Like, that's the only issue now, because obviously Canelo was a part of the subscription for the UK audience previously. Now we have to unfortunately we're gonna have to shell out, because no matter what platform they put it on, they're guaranteed that we're not gonna get it for free in the UK now. Sky will definitely put that on pay-per-view because they know some people will purchase it. I'm sure TNT Sport will do the exact same thing, and Fight TV is a paid subscription pay-per-view platform anyway. So yeah, that's the only bad thing, is that now it just means more money is going to come out of my pocket over the next year and a half. But hey, it is what it is. I'll, at least now we get all these people that had narratives that, Canelo was ducking this fighter, ducking that fighter. Well, he can't be ducking Charlo anymore. So let's see if Charlo was really the guy to beat Canelo like everyone thought. And then Errol Spence, and then finally David Benavidez, or whomever else is in that. The interesting part of this, outside of that, is okay, so what happens now with Eddie Hearn and Edgar Berlanga specifically? You had Berlanga basically go into the zone and Matchroom on the promise of getting a potential Canelo fight. Well, that definitely can't happen now till 2025. Is he going to stay hungry and motivated until that time? But realistically, look, I think from day one, we all knew that the Edgar Berlanga signing, Eddie obviously swindled him into a DAZN deal for the prospect of facing Canelo Alvarez, but really and truly he was just there to be a stepping stone for Diego Pacheco. So yeah, look to see after the Quigley fight, maybe him get one more, and then sometime probably around Puerto Rican Day, where they have the Puerto Rican Day parade. I'm not sure what month that falls, but imagine that in New York, Edgar Berlanga against Diego Pacheco next year, and that becomes Diego Pacheco's official coming out party to the worldwide audience. That's what I see it again. But anyway, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. Canelo Alvarez free fight deal. Put your comments down below who you think he may end up fighting in those free fights. But as I said, mine, Jamal Charlo number 1, Errol Spence number 2, and then David Benavidez number 3. But yeah, thank you guys very much for watching. Like and subscribe, as I said previously. Again, if you want those memberships, like, have a look down. I'll start putting community tabs out, and we can grow this channel, grow this community, and hopefully have content that you guys want to see more than what I want to talk about. But for right now, that's the Hardcore Casual out.